This battle is not our feature presentation, but it is crucial for setting the stage. It is a battle for the first week of the Smogon Premier League in 2018. And that is why there is not only a Rain versus Sun matchup, but the whole reason why Sun is being used in the first place is because Dugtrio is still legal. Previously, once chlorophyll was no longer an option for Sun teams, people were like, oh, who cares about Sun anymore? And then people slowly started to realize, hey, wait, actually, this might be worthwhile. And this point, early in 2018, was when people realized, oh, wait, this is actually crazy broken. So Sun was one defining play style. Chansey, Volk, Cresselia, what a nightmare. And the other defining playstyle had been in place and already threatening the metagame for some time, and that was Sand Rush Excadrill Rain. People still use Excadrill Rain nowadays, but it's not with Sand Rush because that is not allowed. Sand Rush was used on these Rain teams because they allow you... they put you in a win-win position against Sand, Sand teams are usually Rain's biggest enemy. But now, when you have Sand Rush Excadrill on your side, if you lose the Weather War, well, Sand will be facing a Pokemon that is so uber, they're not allowed to use it themselves. The complex ban in place at the time was that, Sand teams can't use Sand Rush Excadrill. If you don't have a Sand setting T-Tar or Hippo, then you can use Sand Rush Excadrill. So Rain teams, put it on because you lose the Weather War, hey, you get an uber against the Sand team, which is your biggest threat. And if you win the Weather War, well, then you've won the Weather War. The whole point of Sand is to prevent Rain from winning the Weather War. So you have these horrifying lose-lose situations where either you get swept by Excadrill in the Sand or by Scarf Keldeo in the Rain. Now, the fact that Solwyn's Rain team is very unusual and doesn't have a Scarf Keldeo, but instead has Zapdos and Hydreigon, it's unusual, but it's besides the point. Because I saw how this was the first Gen 5 OU replay in the replays thread from this first week of SPL, and I was like, that's so... I thought it was perfectly fitting that these two playstyles, which would define what was going on in Black and White OU that season so much, would face off like this. The whole season, the player base was, screaming for something to be done about Sand Rush Excadrill and something to be done about Dugtrio Sun. Sand Rush Excadrill was not a new thing because people had tried in 2017 to, get something done about it, but it failed because of some incredible stupidity that is more a subject for another video. So, how does this relate to our feature presentation? Well, before I can tell you that, I got to tell you what was going on with me personally and at this point in my life. So, I have been thinking about this period in my life a lot lately because it forms the basis for the film that I have been putting together and preparing and getting ready to work on very soon, and fingers crossed, all that jazz. And when I think back to this tournament, it is inextricable from my real life situation at the time, which is often the case for, many of our most memorable tournaments. It's not just like they existed in a vacuum, but I think that the real life situation I was in really added to the drama. And, this is not a recap of the entire SPL season. I would like to do that at some point, but right now I'm tired and don't have the capacity for deep dive long analysis. I mean, I'm sure this will be long, but by my standards. So, okay, when I started college, I met this girl in one of my classes, and we immediately hit it off. Platonically, purely platonically. We became great friends. We hung out all the time. She gave me girl advice. She and another friend of ours. Anyway, so me and this first friend were hanging out constantly, and at one point, I went over to her apartment, and there I met her roommate. Now, her roommate and I became very, very close also. So the three of us were hanging out constantly. I had the feeling that, maybe the roommate likes me. Nah, I'm imagining things. The next semester, I'm hanging out at their place so much. I'm hanging out more than, at mine. Sleeping over there constantly on a mattress. in the kitchen, right? So yeah, so that first semester of college when I met them, I was trying to win Smoke and Tour again. So I was not really too. I had a pretty good balance of not being too worried about it. But the next year I was like, oh, SPL's going on at the beginning, but then that ended thanks to a certain cheating German. And okay, well that passes. And then, I was starting to become really certain that my friend's roommate, who was now my friend at this point, but that she liked me, and I liked her. Now, here's the problem. I had some self-esteem issues at the time. So, I wasn't quite sure, if I was just imagining it, but even though, I look back at it, and I'm like, good Lord, that was horrible. But don't worry, because this is still 2017 at this point in the story. Anyway, so summer comes around. We all go back to our respective places for a few months. I'm playing World Cup, trying to navigate the horrifying world of Sandrush Excadrill in OU. I've mentioned this in some videos in the past, like the attempted cheating scandal that wasn't. When our opponent in World Cup brought a sand team without Sandstream on the T-Tar because he was going to disconnect and put Sandstream on it if we didn't bring a sand team. Mind-numbing stuff. But yeah, so then I came back in the fall, and all that tension is there, and boy, is it ramping up. And let me tell you, it is a soap opera for the ages. So yeah, it gets, and then some dark real life stuff happens, really, really dark stuff. But we're together. My friend's roommate, who, when this dark real life thing happens, she's the first person I call, for instance. So, then more stuff happens, and, we both like each other. We're trying to make each other. It's cute in retrospect, but, it was dark. So then we go back for Christmas, and then we come back. So, at this point, by the time we've come back for Christmas, from Christmas, SPL, the next edition of SPL, is a couple of weeks underway. In the fourth week, my buddy Jirachi, who was on my team, he had started out the season in black and white. I'd started out in advance, and we had a pretty good start, and then we stumbled, and then he had the idea. I don't know where he got this idea, and he was like, Kev, what if you went to black and white and I went to advance? And I was like, you know what? Let's try it. So in week 4, he went to advance, and he had it clicked perfectly. I played one of my favorite games ever against McMegan. I must have covered it on this channel at some point. If not, then I will. But Jirachi really established himself in advance this season. He did a really great job. Wonderful performance in the playoffs, especially. And yeah, so week 4, that game against McMegan, that is not quite the backdrop, because that was the last week before I went back to Prague. Because at this point, my routine in college was, there for the semester. I come back, see my friends in the States over Christmas, then back for the semester again, then come back to the States for summer, and go back and forth. Now, I'm several years out of college, and so I haven't been doing that routine for a very long time. But that was how it was. So then I come back, and yeah. Oh, and I should also mention that in the fall of 2017, after this dark thing happens, especially, then I officially moved in with my 2 friends. Yeah. So to set the stage for this Pokemon story, I don't really have a larger point other than I'm tired, and I've been thinking about this lately, and I would like to entertain you with it as well. Because I think it's important to remember the human element in Pokemon. That's your life lesson. I see a lot of players who get so caught up in, odds maxing and all this other stuff, that they become almost like Pokemon playing robots. And while that can be, an efficient way to find victory, then, the relationship with the game overall, I don't know if that's the healthiest. In fact, to completely cast aside the human element, like I won't say GG because it's not optimal for me to say GG, stuff like that, just the complete dehumanization of your opponents. So yeah, I hope this story helps someone keep in touch with their human side, even when they're in the off dehumanizing activity that is trying to optimize victory in such situations. So yeah, so while Porygon 2 is stalling out Dugtrio, which I watched with delight, then yeah, I come back to Prague, and I'm back in the situation where I'm living with two of my friends, and I'm completely in love with one of them, and I am 99% sure that she likes me too. I mean, Jesus. I won't go into details, but good Lord. The way we provoked each other, my God, we were such love-struck kids. But because of various issues, then that's not really... nothing was really coming of it, even including some really heartbreaking moments. Wow, Kev, that sounds like a great premise for a film. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you should see what I'm working on. Yeah. So then week 5 of SPL comes around, and I'm back in Prague, and I'm playing Black and White, and we have officially settled into this new switch, me and Jirachi. He's playing Advanced, I'm playing Black and White. And like in 2016, I noticed when I took a bit of a devil may care approach, then I found more success. Or rather, I had an easier time achieving the success because I wasn't racking my brain, or not racking my brain, because of course I did that. There's no other way for me. But I was allowing myself more leeway. Because I wasn't as emotionally invested, which it tends to be a recurring recipe for success in Pokemon for me in general, not just in Black and White. But I've noticed it, in 16 and 18 in particular. But it wasn't quite as devil may care, though, because I was specifically preparing my teams, and this is bring us to our feature presentation, actually. I was specifically preparing my teams for the threat posed at the beginning of the video, which were, of course, eventually discovered to be Uber. Not too long after this tournament concluded, in fact. Sandrush, Excadrill on Rain, and Dugtrio Sun. So this made it more stressful because in 2016, when I was getting into Black and White again, then I decided, what, I'm just going to Scarf Garchomp everything. And Scarf Garchomp, carried me through pretty much everything. It was great. And that was before the metagame had really reestablished its identity in the post-Excadrill world, in the post-current gen world in general, because after, I mentioned this in many videos in the past, but the quick version is that when XY came out, nobody was sticking around to play Black and White, except for, I could count them on one hand, the number of people. And it wasn't like when Black and White came out and everyone still wanted to play DPP. No, it was different because people were so sick of it, of how badly it had been mishandled during the current gen, so they ran away. And then as a result, a lot of Black and White games you see from the immediate period, after it was no longer the current gen, why it's like, what were people running? Where was the structure in this metagame? The answer was there was none. There was barely anyone playing it, and people, a lot of people were playing it because, I have to for Smoke and Tour. I guess someone has to in SPL. But yeah, so in 16, in this less structured metagame, obviously it had structure. It wasn't complete chaos, but I felt I had a lot of freedom to construct my teams in handling things with Scarf Garchomp. And then, obviously, there were broken things, but it was that the broken things in Sandrush, Excadrill, and the controversy of Reuniclus, they were really flying under the radar. So the reason 2016 Black and White was, going so comfortably was because there were broken things, but nobody was really using them. So, or hadn't really optimized them, let's say. So, 2018 Black and White, I also had this attitude of like, what, I'm not going to try and be perfect in that way, because I know it's a busted metagame. But in this busted metagame, I got to be more careful because you have these two insanely broken things running around. You know, like in 17, it was a similar thing, except in addition to Sandwich Excadrill, it was also things like Reinoclus. So, yeah. Now, at this team preview, it looks, nothing crazy. But first of all, my opponent is Ari Stella, who was also a dear friend of mine. And if she sees this, then I hope she gives me a shout on Discord. Because it's been a while. We used to gossip about stuff nonstop. I used to tell her about my girl problems, actually. And she was like, oh, Kev, come on. This girl's crazy about you. And I was like, I know, but what if? Insert my, stupid problems here. They're not stupid. I should be nice to myself. One of my friends just told me that today, actually. Anyway. So. Now. Yeah. So I had to face her, and I was like, oh, geez, this is, yeah. Now, I was pretty sure. I was pretty sure that I was going to face something, wacky. I didn't wind up facing, Excadrill, Rain, or Dugtrio Sun, as you can see, but I really thought I might, and that is why my T-Tar is Shed Shell in this battle. That's right. That's how certain I was. There is a Dugtrio coming my way, because that was synonymous with, I wouldn't even call it cheese at that point, because it was just so good into everything. So. And then there were other things, but yeah. So why have I selected this game of all the games? Well, because the date was February 23rd, 2018. Now that date is not really particularly relevant to the story. It's just that this was the period of time where I remember, most being embroiled in that real life emotional turmoil, angst, whatever you want to call it, and so I have really tied this period to that, the period of Pokemon to that. It's not like I see the fact that I lead off with Heatran and think, oh my god, remember what used to happen when I would do this and she would do that, and agonizing stuff, oh my god. But you see what I mean, and I think, I guess if you want to take a different lesson from this video, it's the, again, the human element. Like, you can min-max and optimize till the sun comes up, as many of us have, that are most deeply entrenched in this game. Not that there's anything wrong with that once in a while. Although, personally, I hate that feeling. When you've been up all night and you see the sun come up, I don't find it peaceful or anything. I've talked to McMegan about it. He's like, oh, I love that feeling. I'm like, dude, I hate it. I'm like, what am I doing? I haven't done it in a very long time. But, when you're younger and you have very little sense of time, that can get away from you. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess the human element is what really brings out the most special in the game. Anyway, so I've got a Balloon Heatran because this is an offense team, and it's named Fire in Cairo because it is a song by it's got to be The Cure, right? It's been so long since I listened, but it's got that great chorus. That's like FIREINCAIRO. Yeah, wow, I should listen to that. And my buddy had turned me on to that song a few months before, when I was in the States, and on a late night mystery drive, one of those, talk about remembering things emotionally. I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm one of those dumb guys who's really sensitive and emotional. Anyway, which unironically gets in the way of my Pokemoning sometimes. I don't shut down and become a killing machine as well. I've gotten better with age, obviously, but yeah, you might colloquially refer to it as not even tilt, just like I'll get too emotionally attached to a team. It's the dumbest thing, but it's not, because then it has its strengths. Anyway, so Fire in Cairo comes out, and I want rocks because Heatran is not that valuable. Look, the point of this was that I was talking to my buddy Roscoe, and he's like, remember when we used to spam Choice Band Terrakion all the time? And I was like, you know what? That's the thing here, because CB Terrakion is famously no nonsense. So Heatran gets the rocks up, loses the balloon, who cares? And now in comes T-Tar into Rotom. So, two really good Rotom counters here. I forget exactly how this team was constructed, but because Slowking is not something you usually see on this. But I'd used this team with Rotom Wash a lot before, and I was considering it. Would have been great, but I had a good reason for wanting Slowking that I've since forgotten. Probably some extra insurance against one thing or another. But yeah, Rotom Wash is a more consistent choice. But you know what? I like Slowking here, so because I just like Slowking in general. So now my second Rotom Wash counter comes in, and in comes. Anyway, so I went through this period when, in that first semester of college, when I was playing Spoken Tour, where I would name my Pokemon after Slavic gods. I don't know why. I just wanted a cool nickname theme. I was tired of naming them after songs and albums and stuff like that. And I just thought, you know what? I'm getting in touch with my roots or something. Plus, they have cool names. So I was naming all my T-Tars Koshé, and but this had been like a year before, and I carried over into SPL. And this was a year later, and I was like, you know what? Here comes Koshé once again. So, yeah. Sleep. As if the moles being legal and at full power was enough, we also had to deal with sleep. My God. So, Heatran absorbed sleep, and now in comes Michael Scott. Because I was also watching The Office for the first time at this time. My God, I forgot about this part, actually. I love The Office. It's a great show, obviously. Or it was, for its first half or however long. But yeah, the first time you watch it, it is magic, obviously. And, watching the Jim and Pam dilemma while I was going through my own... Oh, my Jesus Christ, Kev. It was like having my guts ripped out, but in a good way. The catharsis of art, Can't spell it without it. Anyway, I have another project I'm working on, actually, that's kind of inspired by The Office, because one thing, I think for the first half or however long, The Office was a great show, really funny, unafraid to get nasty, and very real about its subject matter, and how an office job or lifestyle will just slowly kill you and crush your soul. And then I really didn't like how, at the end of the show, everyone kind of embraced how great The Office was. It's like, you know what? I've learned to love this soul-sucking death trap of a job. And I really hated that. I thought that was really cheap and really stupid. Really dishonest, honestly. So I've been working on something that's kind of like The Office crossed with Twin Peaks. Also because, as much as I love The Office, I also do find hardcore Office fans a little strange. And I mean, not the ones that can recite all the lines or whatever, because, I can do that. But the ones that go, I've just rewatched the entirety of The Office for the 10th time, and I'm about to start over at season 1. That, to me, is genuinely, crazy. I know there are people who do it like How I Met Your Mother and Friends and stuff like that. And it's like that. It's too much, and that kind of So yeah, I got a lot of ideas in the tank. Anyway, so good. Okay. This next part I take no ownership of. Okay. CTC was writing. I was gonna say game analyses on the forums of the games he liked at this time in the SPL threads, and they were great, they were funny, they were classic CTC. And he wouldn't call them game analyses, he would call them goat analyses, because of course he did. Anyway, so I don't remember exactly how he analyzed this game, but I remember that at this time, in addition to going to school, I was teaching, and I would often, most days, I would go to work in this little town/village outside of Prague, or this little collection of villages, village towns outside of Prague. And it was a long commute, and the pay was terrible, and my boss was one of the most insufferable people I've ever met. Yeah, I wonder why I connected The Office. No, that was genuinely nightmarish. But I was teaching some really great kids, so that was part of it. But the other kids were like there was this one kid who said something, one of the cruelest things I've ever heard any person say. Like an adult trying to be as nasty as possible. The average Smog Tours goer would have trouble matching what this kid said that one day, which is stunning to think about, really. Anyway, so yeah, and I remember one day I had these really, really terrible old shoes, and because I couldn't afford better ones. And one day it was raining and slushy, and as soon as I left the apartment. As soon as I left the apartment, they just fell apart on me right in the street. Like they didn't completely collapse, but I was like, okay, well, I can't go back. It's too far. I have no choice. So I knew that entire day I was just going to have to deal with, mega slushed shoes. And cold and wet and awful, and it was just And I remember while waiting for the class to start, I was sitting, in this little corner store nearby, and I was reading CTC's GOAT analysis of this game. I think it was of this game. I don't remember, but either way, it really made me laugh. So this next part, it's really inappropriate. I'm really sorry. It is a reference to before you think it's CTC being way out of line, because who could ever accuse him of doing that? It's a reference to an Office episode. The Office episode in question is called Sexual Harassment, if I remember correctly. I just know that there was an episode about harassment in the workplace. And Pam has that line. It's like, the day we talk about sexual harassment is the day that everyone decides to harass me as a joke. And then you feel bad if you've ever made a joke about that, as you should. This used to be a great show. Anyway, so the joke CTC made was that Heatran gets sacrificed to sleep, and then Michael Scott comes in and sexually harasses the opposing team. I'm sorry. Okay, I feel bad for finding that funny. But... See, I don't believe in guilty pleasures as in the sense of, this is too stupid or too trashy or too dumb for me to find funny. I feel guilty pleasures in that was really offensive and I still laughed. So, please forgive me. Please forgive CTC of 7 years ago. Oh my God. Yeah, so Michael Scott comes in. Substitute Breloom was not a thing at all at this time. But Poison Heal Breloom in general, when it catches you off guard, is a serious piece of work. Fortunately, it's not going to be a threat here because I'm just going to U-turn. But I was also looking at this team preview and I was like, man, I should have brought a Keldeo. There are times where some players, great players, will just decide, you know what, my team does not need to cover Keldeo, which is crazy to me because I have never made a team that doesn't... Anyway, that's me. So I U-turn, and I think Latios... Yeah, Latios is named Cloud of Unknowing because I still am, a huge Swans fan. They're my favorite band. And I'm really excited for the new album. But... at this time, I was obsessed with Swans. I saw them live twice in 2017, and genuinely life-changing stuff. The first time, actually, was in Brno, and which is the second biggest city in the Czech Republic, for those who don't know. And I actually went with two Smogan guys, Male and Bedshabear. They're from Austria, but it's not that far, and they love Swans. And they're like, "Hey, Kev, you want to go see Swans?" And I was like, "Oh, I like some of their stuff I've heard. I like Filth because I was really into metal at the time." And Filth is super heavy, and then I liked Public Castration is a Good Idea, which is their live album, and yes, that is a great title, obviously. So I was like, it'll be like a metal show, and this was not like, well, yes, but not really. Anyway, and my favorite song of theirs is Experiencing the Man Who Refused to Be Unhappy. What a great title. In that live setting, genuinely unbelievable. So then I saw them later that year after this very, very dark thing happened. I went to Berlin just to see them. I didn't even have enough money to get back home. I had to, call some friends and ask them to help me out, but I had to. Genuinely incredible. Getting emotional just thinking about it. So yeah, I named my Latios Cloud of Unknowing. Speaking of, a few months, around this time actually, around February of 2018, The frontman of Swans, Michael Gira. I know it's pronounced Gira, but it just feels so wrong. Michael Gira had a solo show in Prague. I wanted to go see it, obviously. And, my friend, my roommate, the one who I was in love with who also liked me, she went to go see him with me. If that doesn't prove she was in love with me, I don't know what does. But, yeah, Jesus Christ. I remember telling my friends, like, hey, guys, I just got back from the Michael Gira show. And I was like, they were like, oh, yeah, how was it? Oh, yeah, it was great. She really liked it. She went with you? Dude, that girl loves. Anyway, she did like it, though, actually. The last song he played was Goddamn the Sun. And she was, visibly affected by it. She was like, yeah, okay, Kevin, I'll go with you. And by the end, she was like, oh, my God, this is amazing. Anyway, and then, it was funny, actually. After the show, he was, like, signing merchandise and stuff like that. And so I went, got a signed copy of his book, which is actually, on my shelf still. The Czech translation of his book, The Consumer, which he signed, and got a picture and everything. And like to me, he was like very, very stoic. And to my friend, who was very pretty, he was extremely nice. And I was like, okay, I see how it is. So, yeah. So. The Cloud of Unknowing comes in, and I don't remember what I do. I hope I double switch. If I have any sense, I'll go right back to Michael Scott. Michael Scott does come back in because he has no sense of workplace boundaries, and he's going to U-turn right on out of there, like when he can't make that parallel parking thing. And he U-turns, and in comes CB Terrakion, named after a Big L lyric. Roscoe and I quote him at each other constantly. Quicker than fast food. So I Stone Edge because I was like, oh, I don't want Lando coming in but it's Scarf Lando, so it would have taken $1 million from CC anyway. But yeah, down it goes. In comes Zam, and she double switches to Lando T beautifully. And in comes Slow King, named after a Joy Division song. And I U-turn. I think I Scald. Yeah, I just go right for Scalds, just so Brillium doesn't come in completely for free. Because Regenerator, without any hazards up yet. So yeah, I just wanted pressure on Skarm or T-Tar. Either's fine. So I go Terrakion. Yeah, physical attacker Terrakion coming into Skarm because it's specially defensive. And now I'm just clicking CC. I'm pretty sure. No way Lando T's gonna risk it. Well, because it's already taken Stealth Rock. So I would welcome it to come in. So, Breloom comes in again, and, yeah, so, down it goes. In comes Zam again, and now the Breloom's gone, I no longer need the sleep fodder, so here comes Michael Scott for more U-turn fun, and in comes Lando T to absorb it, so I can't go to Tarak. Lando T is actually kind of a pain itself. Fortunately, it's getting worn down. And I go to Slow King. I forget if well, no, I remember this one doesn't wind up actually mattering because I'm going to eat a U-turn. No way around that. I guess I could have gone back to Lando T. I don't know why I didn't. I think I didn't want a Skarm coming in for free. I could have gone back to Lando T. Yeah, I probably should have. But I think I slacked off. But yeah, the choice was if you stay in slack off or scald doesn't matter because I'm going to Tarak anyway. And so, because it's at such low health after U-turn that even a scald burn won't save it. So, and it's, she can't switch around the CB Tarak at this point anyway. And, so I'm just going to CC anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, look at Tarak go through the Choppleberry. So satisfying. Now Zam comes in. And so you see here, she makes a great move and Focus Blast right away to go through the Chopple. But, notice Spideftar being a beast and surviving. We used to say that all the time in the, not back at this time, but like, in the Wi-Fi Gen 4 days, it was like, oh, it takes the hit like a beast. So T-Tar takes it. And if this was a Custap Tar, it would be pretty awesome. But it's not. It's Shed Shell because, again, Sun. So, yeah. In comes Lando T again, and I really thought about this actually. Look at that, all the way down to 75 seconds from over 200. Wow. So Michael Scott's going to come in. I forget what the. I remember I was really. It seemed like it was obvious that I could just U-turn spam. Oh, I did U-turn. Okay, I'm thinking of something else then. But yeah, Tarak comes in, and for some reason. Oh no, I remember. Wanted to Stone Edge because I didn't want Lando T coming in, but I miss and Skarm roosts, and I was like, no, that's terrible. And it's doing a lot, but it's gonna get roost stalled. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get a. Well, on the bright side, using Stone Edge repeatedly like this means that. She's got us roost spam, meaning I get the save switch to Latios. And I don't remember, it must be, it's Trick Specs. So the Skarm gets Specs, and now I'm fine because now even Lando T is good. But yeah, it's a matter of being careful into the Scarf Lando T and the Zam, both of which are scary. And Tarak no longer has the ability to eat a Psychic in Sand. So, CC doing a ton, and I think I get Whirlwind into Lando T and I spam HP Ice? Yeah, I think that's what happens. No, I Superpower. Oh, yeah, this... Talk about a sign of the times. My Scarf Lando T has Superpower and a ton of bulk. I loved bulky Scarf Lando T in general, but, if Sandrush Excadrill wasn't in the picture, I would just go with Adamant, or Naughty, technically, because I liked the huge power on Earthquakes. And it was really huge, like that World Cup game I mentioned with the... I must have mentioned it. But I remember it like KO'd a T-Tar from almost full where it wasn't expected to because of the plus attack nature. But yeah, here it's bulky and it has... Look at that timer dropping. I go for Superpower just to take it out and not take more Whirlwind stuff. Yeah, down to 45. Wow. Really thinking it through. Sorry, I just had another reminiscence. Yeah, but it's Superpower because of... Superpower with a lot of physical bulk, which sounds like a ridiculous set, but I'm telling you, Air Balloon Excadrill, you can't be too safe against it. Another reason Rotom Wash would have been more optimal. Okay, so now Zam comes in. I think I stand in Superpower here just to break the Sash. And I forget the sequence of moves exactly, but I was really thinking about it. I mean, my timer's down to 30. So what has happened multiple times in my videos is that I'll doubt myself from the past. Not that myself from the past is beyond reproach for, his moves, but generally then myself from the past will make like a much better move than I was thinking of, and I'll be like, Kev, you know what? You were just fine. I shouldn't be so hard on you. Which is a good lesson present-day Kev should learn as well. So, oh yeah, I'm trying to Superpower it and bring it into Choice Band Track Quick Attack range. So, yeah. And then the Lando T... Yeah, I think the idea was the Lando T couldn't take on both Tarak and Latios with the same move. So I've got this, minus million Lando T spamming Superpower. But, I mean, even this switching in here is great because it brings Tarak closer to victory. And, oh my god, like, this timer's stressing me out. Dude, yeah, down to 15 seconds. And, yeah, I'm sure that maybe there was another optimal way to... another way that this could have been done. But I like this way because... Kev back then was really, really figuring it out. So, yeah. So in comes Tarak. I CC safely. Probably could have just quick attacked, but no. Either way, it's fine. I guess if the Zam subbed, but no, it's not Life Orb, so it's not gonna have sub. Yeah, if it's subbed on the Switch, but yeah. So now Latios gets sacrificed. And Tarak, the star of this game. Did Tarak KO everything? Well, it KO'd Lando, KO'd Breloom, KO'd Rotom, KO'd Zam, KO'd... It didn't KO Skarm. Did it KO Skarm? No. Okay, Tarak KO'd 5 of the 6 Pokemon. Lando T KO'd Skarm. Wow, what a... Tarak, oh my god. Yeah, so the thing I was just remembering was that as this SPL season was really, really dramatic. I almost said traumatic, and also true. But, you know, it went to semis and finals, both were tie breaks. They were really close, really stressful. And I was so close with my friend, whom I miss so very much, that, you know, I was telling her about the Pokemon stuff. Yeah, that's how you know. And, you know, I remember there was this moment where I was telling her that I was texting her, like, from work, like, oh yeah, I gotta, you know, come over, I gotta play this tiebreaker, and she's like, oh, we're going out later, right? And I was like, yeah. Oh my god. And she was like, and you know what she said, you know, to get me, you know, excited, she was like, oh, good luck and all that stuff. You know what she said? She said, kill him, Tiger. My soul. Anyway, thank you guys for watching / listening. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, if you need a Pokemon lesson, it's to bring back Choice Band Terrakion. I think Terrakion's been getting used again in Gen 5, but it's been Scarf a lot. I'm sure there's lots of stuff it can do, but look, there's nothing like Choice Band. So yeah, yeah, and if you're wondering, like, wow, this film of yours sounds very emotionally charged, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to call it a matter of life and death. Not just because of the film's subject matter. Oh my god. It's not good. It's not a one-to-one retelling of events. It's just, you know, let's just say the emotional inspiration is the same. But yeah, if this sounds like a long-winded pitch for it, I guess it's not wrong. But yeah. So, thank you guys once again. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.